What is up, guys? Thank you guys so much for choosing my tutorial. The control sensor that I talk about, the X button is plugged into the B of both of these AND gates. I think I may have left that out, and that's very important. The result is plugged into one timeline, which is a different set of attacks for you and your enemy, and the result for the first AND gate is another timeline, which is a different attack for you and your enemy, allowing you to make easy AI for your enemy character. Also, whenever I talk about health modifiers or you losing health for your main character, put that inside of the timelines instead of outside of the timeline, inside of the main sequence timeline. The reason you want to do that is because then that allows it to where each attack that your enemy uses makes it to where your main character can lose a different amount of health. And if you want to add variables like defense and stuff to it, just check out my RPG and level up tutorial. It'll show you how to make variables for your character when you level up and get stronger. And I think that's about it. Other than that, there's a camera right here that you may need. You can turn off the imp right here. And you can also turn off and hide imps inside of a global game setting. You just want to turn that off. That's pretty much it. Let's go ahead and get to the main parts of the tutorial on how to do this. What is up, guys? Do not forget to subscribe. Follow me in Dreams. I'm Young Text YouTube on Dreams, Young Text on Twitch, and Young Text on YouTube, of course. So how do you make a classic RPG in Dreams PS4, a strategy game, turn-based? And whenever you're choosing your attacks, if I was to choose special, then the enemy would have different attacks lined up than if I were to just choose attack to where it's got an AI. The enemy that we're fighting has an AI. Look up my persistent health bar tutorial, my how to make lives tutorial. You'll want to learn how to make lives because you can use that as easy mana bars. My how to level up tutorial and my Dreams PS4 RPG tutorial, my Dreams PS4 level up tutorial, my Dreams PS4 persistent health tutorial, and my Dreams PS4 live tutorial. You can just type that in on YouTube. They go right together with this tutorial perfectly, and they'll probably pop up at the top of the screen up there. So just to give you an example before we even start the logic behind everything, so I just pressed X. Let me do something real quick. Let me rewind it now. We'll get into why that just happened. It won't happen anymore though. So if I use special again, the enemy will choose a different attack. Now if I use the attack string, the enemy has 2 attacks to choose from. You can make more if you want to, but it's not the same attack string for the enemy AI as if I were to have chosen special. And you can make more options for your attack selection, like if you want to make a heal and stuff like that. You can make all that if you want to. This right here is just the basics so you guys can know how to do this very easily. Okay. I'm going to start it out by putting this on none. You won't want to do that for yours. I'm just doing that so it's easier to explain the tutorial. I'm going to start it out with the timeline that I did that made it to where I could do the attacks for each character. So if I attack, then he attacks. That's what all this is that I'm about to show you. I have a timeline, right? Whenever you choose the attack option, this timeline plays. This is your attack. This is the enemy attack. While this is playing, the on switch deactivates the controls to where you can't press X anymore to use an attack. So put that into the deactivate control setting in your control sensor right here. Disable controls. That way the whole thing has to play through in order for you to be able to use your attack again. You'll also want to make it to where you lose HP when whenever, you know, your enemy attacks, and your enemy loses HP whenever you attack. All you'd have to do that is put a variable modifier that modifies your enemy's HP right here, and a variable modifier that modifies your HP whenever your enemy attacks around here. You can also use variables for health. I recommend using variables for health because it's easier to make RPG games that way. And look up my persistent health bar tutorial. Very easy, guys, very easy. What's allowing the enemy to switch his attacks every time this timeline plays through, so like if you press attack once, then it plays through and it chooses that attack, but if you press it again, the next time it switches to that one. What's making that happen is a selector, and every time this playhead goes over this selector, then this on switch makes it move to the next output, and if it's right here, then it'll move back up to A, and if it's on A, it'll move back to B. But in order for this to work, you need the on switch exactly where the selector is, like this. Right here we have a keyframe. What this keyframe is doing is animating our hurt for our main character. It's also turning on an emitter that is the flashy sparkles, that is another hit indicator. And here's my settings for the emitter, if you like that. You might also want to turn that on also. You can mess around with everything else if you want to. For our enemy, this is what's making his hurt animation, and I just turned this up to this, so you can do that for yours if you want to also. You can also turn on the springiness and mess around with that. And what this keyframe does is turns on the sparkles for him. Should be the same settings. What this keyframe does is turns off the menu. The menu, you know, attack options. That's really all this is doing, so you can't see it anymore. How I did that with this keyframe, I turned that down, the text opacity, then I turned this off while the keyframe was recording. Press L1 and X on your keyframe, then just press this and make sure it's off. Make sure that one's off also. Then turn this down to 0. And you can also power it off if you want to. Do that with all the settings within your menu, with all the text within your menu, and make sure it's throughout the whole timeline of when you attack and your enemy attacks. Then you just want to on switch that disables the controls for this control sensor, making it to where you can't press X while your attack is happening, like pretty much in the beginning of the video. And then I quickly plug that switch into the disable control settings right there. You want to make sure this remote control sensor is on remote whenever you're making your game. You don't want it right there. I'm just putting it right there so it's easy for me to explain the tutorial. Then your actual timeline should be set to once. You can mess around with everything else. If you enjoy Paper Mario like I do, what you can do is make it to where whenever your enemy is attacking, you could have a control sensor right here that makes it to where and check out my combos tutorial. That'll help you make combos if you're trying to make a fighting game. Also check out my fighting game tutorial. You can put a control sensor right here. Make sure it's on remote. And if you press X at the right time, and let's say you have enough speed, like there's a speed variable maybe, then you have a chance at dodging. What this would be is plugged into a timeline like this, into the power of the timeline, and that timeline can either make it to where you dodge the attack completely or you defend, and it reduces damage. And what you can do, say we have our timeline right here, X button right here. You can make it to where there's a keyframe, and let's say you're using a variable modifier, or if you're using a variable for your HP, this will work the same way. What you'll want to do is with this keyframe, go to this, and then just make it to where the health is reduced that you lose. So if you're losing 100 health while you're defending, you lose 58 because you pressed X on time. In order to make this work, you'll want to kind of align these the right way and mess around with it, but that would be how you can do stuff like that. Right way too. So let's get into the UI design that we have here. How everything lights up and powers on for the timelines to actually get your attack sequences started. So with our control sensor, I have a selector. Let's go ahead and talk about the selector first because that's the first thing we'll need. The up button is plugged into move to next, and the down button is plugged into move to previous. Now I could have these backwards. If you have more than 2 options down here, then you can just flip that if you need to. That's pretty much what's making it to where it's switching from attack to special when we press up and down. The A is plugged into a AND gate. It's also plugged into the brightness, the text brightness of our attack button. So whenever we are hovered above A, this lights up a little bit. You want to move this up to 14 or somewhere around there. The X button from our control sensor is plugged into the B of the AND gate. So again, the selector, the A is plugged into the A of the AND gate, and the A is also plugged into the text brightness. When we press up, it makes this give a signal to this option right here, and this option gives a signal to the text brightness and also to the AND gate. The B gives a signal to a different AND gate's A and to the special option for the second AND gate. So if you didn't understand that, I'll say it one more time. The B for the selector is plugged into the text brightness for the special text down here. So when we press up and we're over B, this lights up instead of the attack lighting up. And B is also plugged into the A of the second AND gate. The result is plugged into of this AND gate, the second AND gate, the B's AND gate. The result is plugged into the timeline that makes our special attack happen. Thus giving us this. Put my control sensor back on remote. And then giving us this. You can look up my UI tutorial if you don't want to use the arrow sticks. In order to go up and down on my main menu UI tutorial, I show you how to use the analog stick instead. If we use attack, then the enemy has different attacks to counter us with. Because a different timeline is playing. This text displayer is blank, so just press space inside of here and upsize this if you like this, and also mess around with these settings right here. You can mess around with this if you want to, and this if you want to. So really guys, all it is this. This is how you make the layout for a classic RPG the easy way. You don't really need any logic inside of your puppet, but you can if you want to. If there's anything that you think I left out, you can ask me in the comment section below. What I like doing with my AND gate and my timelines, once I'm actually done with the first one, I'll like group these together, and then I'll clone it. And then that's how I would make my B one. Then I put the B inside of the one that I clone. That way, since they're grouped together, all the logic that I made for the first one is the same inside of the second one. And that's why I had to put this switch inside of the deactivate controls of the control sensor right here. Because even though the same logic was in here, the wiring still wasn't the same. Well, the wiring wasn't done yet. So I still had to wire it up into the deactivate controls, and that's the reason why I did that. But it also made it a lot easier for me to get everything done since I had grouped those two together. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, follow me in Dreams. I'm Young Tech's YouTube on Dreams. This should pretty much be it. Check out the RPG tutorial, my level up tutorial, my persistent health tutorial, my lives tutorial, my UI main menu tutorial, and just add the damage indicators in there if you know, or the losing health in there if you guys need it. Well, you'll need to, but you know, to pretty much make it to where you can win the game and lose the game. Alright guys, peace out.